All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of my podcast. In this podcast, I'm going to be interviewing people that I know that are pursuing their passion to show you that normal people can pursue the thing that they love and make a full-time living doing that. So this is my friend, Tony Oxley. Tony's the head coach and gym manager at CrossFit Hakkapeliitta.
Close enough.
That's pretty close.
Pretty close.
Yeah. And so Tony and I met each other in the Best Hour of Their Day Coaches Development Group. And now we co-run one of those calls each week. And what I think is cool about Tony's story is Tony has a similar story to me, where he went to school for one thing. He went to school to be an engineer, went and was an engineer, and now he's no longer an engineer and is a full-time CrossFit coach and gym manager. So we're going to talk about why the career change, and then what shifted for Tony mentally, and how he got to do what he is doing. So how's that sound, Tony?
Sounds good. Yeah.
Cool. And anything I left out that anybody should know about you before we kick off?
Maybe that I just live in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
northern Michigan, the Upper Peninsula. Maybe that's it.
People in our coaches group know Tony from Jason referred to you as Tony UP for the Upper Peninsula, which is not even, I mean, it's technically Michigan, but the Upper Peninsula is really like Wisconsin.
It basically is Wisconsin.
It's basically Wisconsin.
Is where I'm born and raised. So.
Oh, I didn't know that. Fun. So on that, I want to go in the way back machine, and I want to go all the way back to high school. Tony, tell me just a little bit about super short. Let's do this super short. Where you grew up, like through high school, and tell me just a little bit about that background.
Sure. Yeah. Grew up in northern Wisconsin, little town called Arbor Vitae. Most people probably are familiar more with Minocqua. It's more of a touristy area there, just outside that. Went to high school, Lakeland Union High School, home of the T-Birds, and did the typical sports thing. So I played football. I played basketball for a couple of years, found out I wasn't any good at it, started lifting weights, and ran track. So I did a lot of football and track and lifting weights, and that was my bread and butter for basically high school. And that's where I learned the foundations of CrossFit, if you will, how to lift, as I found out later, not necessarily the proper way. But that's where I got started. And that's where I really fell in love with working out in high school there. As I was going through high school, I knew I wanted to do something architecture, engineering wise, finally settled on engineering, and then decided to go to Michigan Technological University, which is in Houghton, Michigan, which is where I currently live. And that's where I decided to go to school for civil engineering, which many people may not really understand, but it's building houses, bridges, and roads, and foundations, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, civil engineering is anything to do with like infrastructure.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Cool, very cool. That's funny. We haven't talked a whole lot about our high school or anything like that. Most of the stuff we just talk about is like coaching shop. But that's funny that you said that you realized you weren't really good at sports, but it's like, but I liked working out. That is exactly me. Like I tried a bunch of different sports. Like I tried like baseball growing up and was garbage at it. And I played hockey for a while, and I was like decent at it. I was always like middle of the pack, like nothing stellar. And definitely not the worst, just middle of the road. And then that's what got me into working out, because it's like, oh, well, this is a lot more fun. And so did you, were you introduced to CrossFit in high school? When did you first get introduced to that?
So I didn't find CrossFit until well after I graduated college.
Oh, okay.
But it took a while for me to find CrossFit.
Were you working out throughout college then?
Yeah, I joined the club lacrosse team up here at Tech, And so I worked out and did a lot of, I mean, if you're not familiar with lacrosse, it's basically hockey just on dirt.
Yes.
So it's a lot of running. But I did continue to work out, and we had a good group of guys that we bonded really well with. And so we would always be in the weight room together. So that kind of kept me going through college, doing something physical and still keeping me in the weight room, doing the things I like doing. Because the thing that I found, I don't know if you agree with this, but like, again, middle of the road athlete, wasn't like phenomenal at anything. And I still remember that I would run track with some guys, and I had a pretty fast 400 time. But then there's this kid who just, he was actually, I think, smoking, and he was beating me. And I was like, how can you be that much, faster? I'm trying as hard as I possibly can. You literally are going and smoking cigarettes after high school, and you're still running 5 seconds faster than me. It's like, it just made me angry. But I thought the big thing was like, I was a hard worker. I wasn't very good, but I would work the hardest. That's kind of what kept me going.
I totally relate to that. For me, I played hockey from like probably third grade, all the way through my sophomore year of high school. And then quit playing hockey when my son was born. But I remember being a sophomore in high school, having played hockey, I don't know, what is that, 5 years, 6 years, something like that. And a friend of mine had only been playing like 2 or 3 and just like joined the high school team just because, and was like the top scorer and was like a stud on the team. I was like, what have I been doing all this time? Like, and it just reinforced me. It's like, okay, well, this could be fun. And, it's just not my thing. And I think there's a balance between, there's that constant like nurture versus nature argument. And I totally believe that like you can work your way to getting to a certain level, but there's also something to be said about like picking something up quickly, because it then becomes fun and then you can get even better at it. And so that was, that just apparently wasn't the case for me. I had to work hard at it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. There's certain people who just pick something up and they're instantly great at it. And we hate those people.
So with that, so going back to college, what did it look like to go from college to engineering to like when you quit college and started working full time?
Yeah, so I graduated with my bachelor's degree in 2010, and that was right during the recession. So I stuck around and went to grad school because there were no jobs for engineers. So then I stuck around for another year and a half, did my master's degree in civil engineering as well, a focus in geotechnical.
I didn't know you had a master's degree.
I've got 2 degrees. I don't use either of them.
Yeah. Wow.
So I got my master's, because I wasn't sick of school yet. And like where we live up here is beautiful. I don't know if you've seen pictures of it. Those that are listening, if you just Google the UP, it's beautiful up here. And so I wasn't ready just to leave and like start being an actual person yet. After about 5 years straight of school, I was ready. And so I gutted out that last semester. My now wife, she got a job before me. She graduated, I think, a full semester before me, because she did some international senior design and stuff like that. So she did her time. She got a job in Milwaukee. And so my last semester was like, well, I need to find a job in or around the Milwaukee area because we knew that we wanted to stay together. And so I started looking around, found a job in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, which for those that are not familiar is about an hour north of Milwaukee. And so accepted that job. And when I graduated, I think I got like 2 weeks off maybe. And so spent some time down in Milwaukee getting situated, which was a big shift for me. Because again, I grew up in northern Wisconsin, very small town, went to school in Houghton, Michigan, which is arguably even a smaller town, although it had a university in it. And then I moved to Milwaukee, which is the biggest city in Wisconsin. So that was
it's bigger than Madison?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's big. I also moved to like the second most diverse neighborhood in the city of Milwaukee, which isn't necessarily the nicest place to live, but it was a good experience. So again, huge mindset shift there. I like to tell the story. My last house I lived in up here was a junk. It was horrible. It had a sliding glass door for a front door. It didn't lock. It was just a sliding glass door. moved to Milwaukee, and then the front door had 5 locks, the back door had 5 locks, and then we had like a shared basement that had those like the wooden braces that you would put across, and all the windows had bars. It's like, oh, this is different. you know,
When you moved in, what did you think when you like moved in and you saw that?
I was like, it was eye opening to say the least. It was different, way different. I mean, we grew up never locking the doors, and then it's like, oh, my car got broken into like 3 times that first year. You get used to it pretty quick, unfortunately. But that's took a couple weeks, and then I started working, driving an hour one way, and then driving an hour back at the end of the day. That was my job, or my life for the next 3.5 years.
So then at what point were you like, okay, I don't, well, I assume you found CrossFit somewhere in here, right? Because you had to transition from this to that. So when, is that when you found CrossFit was at this time?
Yeah, right around here. So I graduated in 2011, December, with my master's, I think. So I did the whole engineering thing for a while, full-time engineering. I loved the job, mind you. So I really enjoyed what I did at the firm that I was at in Sheboygan. Little firm, 10 people. We were doing some pretty cool jobs. I was traveling to different farms and doing, this is going to sound really stupid, but we were doing density testing on manure pits.
Okay.
So you have to build these clay pits where all the farmers put all the horse manure, the cow manure. So I was testing to make sure that the cow manure wouldn't seep into the groundwater, basically.
Yeah.
A lot of cool stuff. Saw some pretty cool things. It was right on Lake Michigan, so we were able to do some pretty cool projects with beaches and stuff like that. But then my wife, she surprised me with a gift one Easter-ish, right around that time. And it was 2013. So this has been 2 years later, basically.
So 2 years after you moved to Milwaukee.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. My college roommates, he moved to Virginia Beach, and he was actually a member of Fern's gym, CrossFit Rife.
Oh, okay.
And so my wife surprised me with a trip to go out to visit them. And they were like, oh, we'll do a workout on Saturday. I was like, sure. Yeah, I'll bring all my stuff. So I went to Virginia Beach, had a blast. They took me into CrossFit Rife on Saturday morning. I think it was like March 31st, and it was 13.4. And that was my first ever CrossFit workout.
Was it during the open?
It was during the open.
What? That is great.
So I show up, and I know how to clean. I know how to jerk. I didn't know what a toes to bar was, but the 13.4 was I believe it's a 7-minute AMRAP of ascending, clean and jerks and toes to bar. I think it's 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. And in college, I was always the strong one. So Decker, my roommate, he was capable, but I was always stronger. I was always faster. Go do the workout. I think I used the women's loading, which his girlfriend was using, and I'm pretty sure she beat me. And I was like, yeah, this cannot happen. And not happening again.
Did you
and
do
that right there? I think I did. I guarantee you they were single, strict swinging ones. I had no kipping yet. And it crushed me. And I felt okay, but then obviously 4 minutes into the workout, I was dying. And then, like I said, Kara definitely kicked my ass. And then Jeff, I mean, he did 135, and I was like, oh wow, that's as impressive. I need to start doing this, because if it's working for him, like, I need to do this. And
I used to be the strong one, and now this dude's beat me in a workout. Clearly, there's something about this workout that I'm not getting that I need to get.
Yep. And I mean, we made fun of him, for doing CrossFit, because this is 2012. Everyone's posting on Facebook, like, doing CrossFit and stuff. And we're like, oh, look at it. He went off the deep end, And no, that was enough for me to say, like, I need to look into this.
So then what happened when you went back home?
Looked around, because again, I had a weird travel, because I lived in Milwaukee, worked in Sheboygan, so I had 2 hours of driving each day. I looked basically all along I-43, which is the interstate that connects the two, and was like, where are the CrossFit gyms? What are their schedules and all that kind of stuff? So I looked and found some gyms in Milwaukee. There were a couple in Sheboygan that had just opened up, and it worked out well. And I reached out to the one, CrossFit Sheboygan, which is no longer in business. And I reached out and was like, hey, I want to start. And my roommate was like, yeah, I can vouch for you if they have like an intro process. Cause I knew how to do everything. It just was a matter of like how well I knew how to do everything. And so CrossFit Sheboygan had literally opened up, I think like a month earlier. And I went in there, asked to do like, they had a test out option to test out of the intro. And I was like, hey, I'd like to test out. And they were skeptical, I can't say the word.
Skeptical. Yeah.
Skeptical at first. And I was like, no, I know what I'm doing. And they're like, okay, so if you just want to come in, we'll schedule half an hour. I'm just going to lead you through how to do like all of this stuff, or, ask you to demonstrate all this stuff. And if you're good to go, you're good to go. Walked in and met the trainer, Brittany, and she was great. And I think she was kind of taken aback because I was like, she's like, do a push press. And I did a push press. She's like, do a push jerk, do a clean, do a snatch. And like, I could do everything right away. The only things I weren't really good at were like the gymnastic stuff. And she's like, yeah, you can come by tonight if you want. So I was like, I wasn't planning on it. I'll come tomorrow. But then right there, it was 2 weeks after I got back from hanging out with my roommate in Virginia Beach that I was in CrossFit. So it didn't take long.
That's super cool. So then at what point did you, what happened next?
So I was going about 3 days a week. I was still doing a lot of running. So I transitioned to long distance running after college because I didn't have access to a weight room and I was too cheap to really pay for one. And I did a couple of half marathons, did a lot of quarter marathons. So I had a pretty good running career, on scare quotes there, just to throw it out there. But then fell in love with CrossFit, honestly. So I started going 3 days a week. I worked it out with my job so that I could come in really early, like start at 7, so I could leave by like 3:30, so I could make it to like the evening or afternoon classes, so that I wasn't gone all day every day. But then fell in love with it
real quick.
Yeah.
That's something that like, do you find having that conversation with your members, like they think like, oh, my schedule's this way, I can't come in at this time?
Yeah, it's frustrating because you can change that. Most places are pretty cool about it.
There are, yes, depending, like, especially if you work in a profession, if you simply communicate to your boss, hey, this is what I'm doing, I'm trying to make myself better, this is the time that the classes are, could I come in a half hour earlier and leave a half hour earlier? And I'm always surprised by the amount of people that when they do that, it's an astounding number, like percentage of how many people are like, yeah, I can do that. Like, obviously, if you're a teacher, that might be different, or, but there are plenty of jobs that people just assume that their schedule is inflexible. And unless you're working somewhere where like it's a business that is open from, A to B and you have to be there, like more often than not, they're like, yeah, we can adjust that.
Yeah. And it, like, especially engineering, we're, on a whatever basis, you have to get your stuff done. We don't have super hard deadlines for a lot of things. Yeah, there were times where it's like, we need to get this thing out today, you have to stay until it's done. Like, yeah, that's fine. But my office administrator was very vocal and very good about saying like, hey, if you want to do this, you need to make sure that your clients understand, and then we're totally cool with it. So that way someone's not calling at 4 o'clock, hey, where's Tony? Oh, well, he's gone. They know I only work till these hours on these days, and they can reach me anytime during those hours. And it took a little bit of like buffer time to kind of make sure that schedule was ironed out and everyone knew it. But after time, and then you got new clients, you just like, hey, by the way, I don't work past 3 on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You can reach me at 6 in the morning if you want, but those are my hours. And it worked out really, really well.
And when you like, once you get that boundary set and people know that that's the case, it just becomes the norm for them. There's like, yeah, Tony does CrossFit Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So I got to make sure that if I'm, if we're going to schedule something late, I got to do it Tuesday, Thursday. I have plenty of members at the gym that do that, and their bosses, like I said, unless it's something that has to be there. And even then there's a lot of bosses that'll say you have to be here. And then when you dig into it, it's like, there's no have to. Like, a lot of times you can move your stuff around.
And like that kept me, having the gym in Sheboygan, having that community, that kept me at that job for 3.5 years. I did that job 3.5 years. I drove 2 hours every day. And the only reason I stayed that long was because I had the CrossFit gym there. And I think the company knew that. And so they weren't going to say like, no, you have to be here, because if you can't do this, you're going to start looking for a job elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I mean, eventually it got to be too much, because you lose 2 hours of your day every day. It's a lot. But it kept me there longer than I should have been there. I will say that.
Did you start coaching when you were at Sheboygan?
Yeah, I took my level 1 in November. So I started in early April. So 7 months later, I took my level 1. I started coaching right afterwards.
Oh, so you started coaching 7 months after you started CrossFit.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
really fast.
Yeah. Well, and part of it was so Brittany was the head coach, and I think she was coaching like 4 classes a day.
Wow, that's a lot.
Two morning classes, 2 evening classes, and then she had like, there was a bunch of other. It was basically a full gym. They had all of her husband was into arm wrestling, so they had like all the machines in the back and all that. So it was like a full-time gym, and I think she was just like, hey, I need a break. And so I think she offered me like, hey, we'll discount your membership, or we'll give you the all-inclusive for the same price that you're currently paying if you start coaching like 2 to 3 classes a week. I was like, yeah, I'm in. So got my level 1, and she's like, I can actually do a group class now, because I have an hour off and I can actually work out with my members, which I think she really liked. And it worked out for both of us. I got a little bit of a discount or a deal, and I was able to start coaching.
So would you coach the same days that you worked out?
Yeah, what I would do is I would either take the 3:30 and coach the 4:30, or vice versa. Or what I would do is I would come in a little bit early, do my own thing, then coach, and then go home.
That makes sense.
It would change based off of the day and what the workout was. Just how that went. So
very cool. So when did you guys move then from Milwaukee to, where'd you go after Milwaukee?
Yeah, so after that, I stayed in Milwaukee. So I just got a job in Milwaukee, because Sheboygan was an hour away. So I quit working for the small firm, actually joined or started working for the company that my wife worked for.
Okay.
And big firm, like 40,000 people. So from 10 to 40,000 was a big switch. And I did not like this job as much. But what I did really like was the fact that Brew City CrossFit was right there. And they had a really good Olympic lifting program, lots of really good athletes. So this was a much more competitive gym. And like at that time and point in my life, I was very much trying to, compete, make it to regionals as we all were back in the day.
Sure.
So that was cool. I offered my coaching services. They didn't need them at the time. So it was kind of cool just to be a member for about a year and just get to be familiarized with their community, because it was a different community. It was a much more competitive community. But I did meet a lot of really cool people, and like found my best friend at Brew City during that time. So it was pretty cool. And then we went to the Granite Games in, I believe it was late August, early September. I believe it was 2015. And they offered me a coaching gig after that.
Brew City did.
Brew City did. Yep. I was like, hey, I need to re-up my year-long membership. They're like, no, you don't need to pay just yet. I was like, you sure? Like, you want my money? They're like, no, hold off. And then like 2 weeks later, they offered me a job.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
So how long was that reality of coaching at Brew City and then working in Milwaukee?
Yeah, so it was a pretty long one. I think so basically until I left. So I left Milwaukee in the spring of 2019. So about 4 years I was involved with Brew City, or more, considering the time I was an athlete there only. It started off with like 2 classes a week, and then it started to be like 3 classes a week, and then I picked up a Sunday class, like open gym. And then, just like, hey, do you want more? Do you want more? And during this time, I just realized that I did not enjoy doing the engineering work as much as I enjoyed coaching CrossFit. I really liked the old engineering job I had. What I was doing now, I mean, I tell people a trained monkey could have done what I was doing. It was basically copying reports, putting in new numbers, submitting it.
Tony froze for me. Let's see if we can get him back.
Did I freeze on you?
Yeah, you froze on me. Go ahead. I think you're good.
Okay. Yeah, it was boring work. You couldn't, you show up to work and you're just dreading it. You were looking, oh, is it time to leave yet to go to the gym? Is it time to leave yet to go to the gym? What I would do is I would work from like 7 to noon, leave, go work out from like noon 30 to like 3, and then do my, my coach like the 2 classes at night kind of thing. And then eventually I was like, well, why don't I just go part-time at CH at the company and pick up more hours at the gym? And the gym was all for it, and it was super easy to do it at the firm. So I just did that. And then towards the 2018 or so, it was like, this is bad. I can't do this. Engineering is literally killing me emotionally, spiritually, if you will. And my wife would even notice, like, you are miserable, just quit. And as soon as she said those words that one day, I wrote my 2-week notice the next day and submitted it on like the Friday. And then 2 weeks later, like, I was done with engineering.
Was there a moment in time where you realized where it really hit you and you're like, man, this isn't working for me?
Right when I switched from about part-time, so I was no longer full-time engineering. I was like half and half essentially. I was making pretty decent money at the gym, and it was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, there's no point. Like, you know, those things that you do, you're like, yeah, I do this because it's what I do. And then you get to the point and you're like, why am I doing this? Like, I don't get anything out of it. Like, yeah, I get money, but I don't need the money. I'm much happier, and I'm living well within my means. It just didn't make sense anymore. Like, why am I doing this thing that just makes me unhappy and makes others around me unhappy? So that was kind of the turning point. Was like, this could actually happen. And the gym kept on giving me, they're like, hey, you want to show up at 5 a.m. and coach all the classes? I think the owners are like, here you go, you can have them. And I enjoyed it. I really did.
That's cool. Yeah. I'm always surprised by the amount of people that simply accept their current reality for like permanence. Mm-hmm. And there's a level of comfort in the familiar that scares people out of stepping into the unknown.
100%. And I have to give all the credit to my wife, because again, she told me, quit, you're miserable, you're making me miserable. But then she was also like totally on board. Like, we don't need what little money you're bringing in from engineering, because let's be honest, I wasn't working at all. I was using up PTO. I was working like 5 to 10 hours a week. It was pretty minimal effort there. But she was totally on board with it. And so she told me to do it. And I was like, if you're on board, I've been wanting to do this for a while. And like, that first week or two after I was no longer doing engineering, it was just amazing about how much pressure or how much weight had been lifted off of my shoulders that I didn't even realize I was carrying around. And it was so freeing, and we were just happier people as a result. And I think it was better for both of us that I did quit engineering.
That's really cool. That's awesome that you have a partner of a wife who's able to recognize that in you and support you in that way. And I totally have the same thing. The more we talk and get to know each other, the more parallels I hear between our lives. Because my situation is totally the same, where like my wife supported me stepping away from teaching. And it's so alien for me to talk to people who don't have a spouse that's on their team.
Yeah.
And it's totally what makes not just like me as an individual, but like our family is successful because we're on a team, and like we know each other's strengths, we know each other's weaknesses, we know when to challenge each other, we know when to encourage, when to comfort, and just being hyper aware of where the other person is at and where the family is trying to go, and making sure that everybody's on board and the ship's going in the right direction.
100%. Yeah. I could not have done any of this without Sarah. And I'm sure you're probably the same. You just need that. You don't need it. It makes it so much easier to do if you have that supportive partner next to you.
Yeah. And it's supportive like it's obviously supportive financially when they're still working full time and you're taking this gamble of doing something that is less stable. It's depending on everybody's scenario, less consistent, and it requires effort to grow. Because even when you're, a coach and not an affiliate owner, it's still entrepreneurial, and you still have to figure out, because nobody's going to just hand you a bunch of classes and they're like, hey, here's, 30 classes a week. We're going to pay you $20 to $30 a class and knock yourself out and you'll make enough to live. And it's like, that's not going to happen. They're going to, you're lucky if you get a handful of classes, and then you got to turn that handful into a bunch. And then you got to figure out, how do I supplement my income through things like nutrition coaching or personal training or workshops or challenges and all of that. And so, in a lot of ways, it's just as entrepreneurial as an owner and an affiliate. And there's a lot of hustle involved. And to have that financial and emotional support so that you have the bandwidth to hustle is, unparalleled. I don't know how you would do it without it.
Oh yeah. It'd be hard.
Yeah. I don't know how I would have done it with that. Like I would I guess if I lived by myself, I would have had to move back home. Somebody would have had to support me to do this.
And when I look back at it, I was making good enough money at Brew City where I could have survived on my own. Like it would have been enough. We didn't live in like a fancy house or anything. We moved out of the city eventually. But like I could cover mortgage and I could cover like expenses, but I would have zero money left over. So it was really nice to have, somebody who is working full-time still contributing to the total income of the household. But
have you, after you quit engineering and started coaching, was there ever a moment or moments where you questioned what you did, or you started wondering, was this right? Or is this something I could do long term? I don't know. Was there second guessing after you quit?
No, never. There were some times where I was like, you know what? I did miss certain aspects of certain things of what I did. Like, again, when I worked up in Sheboygan, there was a lot of cool things I did. And I do miss some of those things from time to time. But I do not regret in any way, shape, or form leaving engineering. It was a good period of my life. I like to tell people I paid off all my student loans. I bought a car. I bought an engagement ring. We paid for a wedding. We took a lot of vacations. And I entered the world of coaching CrossFit with zero debt, which I don't think I could have done otherwise. But 100%, I have no regrets switching over to just CrossFit.
That's really cool. Going back to when you were, coaching part-time and working part-time. And then even at that point when there was you in the beginning, when you coached at that first gym, what I tell a lot of people about when they pursue this is that whenever you do something at this level, there's a unofficial like internship process where you're doing things either for free or cheap or exchange for membership, where you're learning how to do this thing and you're not, valuable enough to where it would not be intelligent for somebody to like pay you to do what you do now. Like you just didn't know enough then. And so you needed somebody to kind of give you a chance to do, this grunt work and mess up and learn things. Because a lot of people, and I had a call with one of our coaches in the group where they had gotten a new certification and they're like, oh man, now nobody wants to hire me. And it's like, I worked so hard for this, and it's like, now nobody wants to pay, wants to hire me. And it's just that there's a constant new levels to learning more.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to wait for you.
No, I was just going to say what advice would you have for a coach that's in that position where they're like, hey, I just got my level 1. I want to go from, I'm a member and I want to start coaching and I want to coach a lot and maybe I want to coach full time.
The biggest thing that I have, and it's just be there. I feel pretty strongly that you should be a member of the community first. And I say this with a little tongue in cheek because when I were at my current gym, I just reached out, was like, hey, I'm looking for a job, and they hired me. I wasn't a member of their community. We can talk about that if you want later. But I do think you do need to be a member of the gym and see what's going on there. So that way you can kind of see, like, would I even be a good fit? Now, if you do think that you would be a good fit and you do like your current affiliate, just be around as well. Because you can learn a lot just by watching. I think that's underappreciated or undervalued by just even just sitting in the corner while the best coach is running a class. You can see a lot of things that they're doing and just pick up on that. And that's the reason why most internship processes start but just watch, ask questions and just watch. And if you're constantly there and doing things, little things, even like cleaning up, I think that goes a long way, especially in the eyes of an owner, like yourself. If you see a member that is changing toilet paper rolls, you're like, oh, okay, that's pretty interesting. That's somebody that you keep in the back of your mind as somebody who would potentially be a good member of your staff in some way, shape, or form. So just being around and just doing stuff that needs to be done. Don't ask for reward. Just do it because you want to be involved with that place. I think that's a really good place to start because it shows you're willing to put in a little bit of work and you don't want anything in return.
We talked about that, I think Wednesday with Ryan, I had brought that up where if you want, well, in this scenario, if you want a position, but also like if you're already coaching and you want more classes, you want more pay, you want to run this program, whatever, there's something to be said about, and they told you, no, it's not available. There's something to be said about providing more value to that owner and the experience and the members, and then going back and saying, hey, I've been doing all these things. What do you think about bringing me on to do this regularly in an official capacity?
Yeah. And I mean, I did that at my current affiliate when I was going for my gym manager role. As I was writing out the things that I thought would be in a good gym manager, list of duties that they would have to do, is I started doing them early. So I don't think I submitted my proposal to my owners at, let's just say it was in September. I started doing that stuff in like June and July, just to kind of see, like, does it actually work? How much time does it actually take to do this stuff? So there's a lot of pro bono stuff that I put in there, but it's valuable too, because you find out what works, what doesn't work, and how much time things take. And you also see the value in it as well. And so that way, you have that confidence. When we talked with Matt from Enlifted, like, what gives you confidence? Results. So that this stuff works. You're going to be more confident going to somebody saying, hey, I want more money because I know this works.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's great. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I dig that. That's really cool. So at one point then, when did you then leave Milwaukee and head to Hakkapeliitta?
I don't know, whatever you want. So Sarah and I, my wife, I think it was our New Year's resolution of, maybe it was 2019 or 2018. I can't remember, but we're both not city people. So again, I mentioned that story about how I moved from northern Wisconsin to Milwaukee. It was an eye opener. She's from southeastern Michigan, out in the country. So same thing. She's not really, she's more of a city person than I am. Let's just say that. But we did not really enjoy living in Milwaukee. As great as it had been, we were kind of done with it. And so we decided we wanted to move, but we wanted to move somewhere where we enjoyed being, and then we would find jobs to support where that was. And so we took a trip out west. We stopped in Duluth, Superior, Superior, Wisconsin, Duluth, Minnesota, just to kind of check out areas there because we liked that area. We had some criteria. We needed to be by woods, lake, or mountains. And like the Great Lakes are right there. We stopped in Missoula, Montana. So we spent a couple days out there. We went up to Banff because Banff is gorgeous. And then we kind of drove back. And it was a vacation, but it was also like doing some searching and seeing if we could live in these potential places. And then when we came back, I updated my resume. I picked all these different cities, went to all the different websites that were looking for jobs. And I sent out like 20 different emails to different CrossFit gyms because we knew that Sarah could keep her job in telework. It was basically, can I find a gym that would hire me to work at?
It was her job remote?
Yes. So my wife she still currently works remote.
Oh, cool.
They have a pretty good remote telework program. So we knew that we were able to keep her job. It would just be, I need to find a CrossFit job. And yeah, so I sent out like 20 emails, resumes, cover letters, the whole thing. To the one, so I dropped into like 4 or 5 different gyms on that trip, so I could kind of like see which places were good and which ones I would potentially want to work at or even be a member of. I didn't hear back from anybody except for this gym up here. Like out of 20 emails, and going to college up here, all of our friends, everybody we hung with, like, how cool would it be if we could come back and live in Houghton? And then out of all the emails I sent out, this is the only gym, because the owner's like, hey, you know what? We do need a coach. We just bought the gym like 4 months ago. The current owner sold it, and like, we need a full-time coach because we are having a hard time like keeping all these students, scheduled and making them our coaches. And it was just like the most random, but also most perfect kind of ending. And I remember I got the email back from my current owner. I was at Brew City. I just got done teaching an intro, and I was walking out to my car, and I was reading it on the way to my car, and I could like feel like my jaw drop. And like, I think I drove way too fast home to like show Sarah the email. And you could like see on her face, like, is this going to happen? Are we going to move to Houghton? 2 months later, we were up here looking at houses. 4 months later, we bought one. And then
that's so cool.
We moved up on May the 4th.
That's great. I don't think you and I have talked much about like our spiritual beliefs, but like, I don't believe in coincidence at all. I totally believe in like divine intervention and architecture, like God being an architect for our lives.
It was weird how, and I don't know, it like I said, it just, again, I'm surprised. I sent out 20 emails. I heard back from 1. And yeah, it had, I don't know, the universe, God works in many different ways. And it's like, hey, maybe. I mean, I take it, I was meant to be up here. It has to be what it is. It has to be.
I totally agree. And the more people that I talk to that have, taken gambles like you and me, it's the same story, where it's like there were, years of like feeling this discontent and then leaning into whatever the thing is. For us, it was like coaching CrossFit. And then it's like the more that you give up, for me, the more I give up the control and the more that I just lean into that destiny, the more that things just unfold in a way that you can't really explain to somebody that hasn't experienced that. And like an example for us, like just to be super short, is like the gym where I'm at now. Like my wife and I were trying to move down to Orlando, and I was doing the same thing, trying to find a gym that was hiring. And there was a gym that posted on Indeed. And in case you don't know, that doesn't happen. CrossFit gyms don't post on Indeed. I was confused. Yeah. And there were two gyms posted on Indeed. And I'm like, what is this? So I applied, and it was in Daytona Beach. And we're like, all right, well, we'll live somewhere in between Orlando and Daytona Beach. And I just responded because they were, they were the only one who responded. And now fast forward, going on 3 years later, like that's the gym I own. And it's like, there was, I tell people, like, even if, God could send me an email and he's like, hey, here's the things that I need you to do. Here's the itinerary. This is what's going to take you from where you're at to living a life that's fulfilled. I could not execute on that list on my own. It would be impossible. And so the things that line up when we take those steps are profound, and I mean this in the literal sense, miraculous.
Yeah. I mean, I at least once a week, I tell Sarah, like, I am so glad we live up here. At least once a week. And I send you and Ryan pictures all the time. Like, hey, you guys want to come live up here? Beautiful sunset and then 3 feet of snow. I mean, you gotta take the pros with the cons, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, there's definitely places that we're destined to be, and you feel it in your soul when you're there. And my wife and I do the same thing. We'll be driving down the road. Nothing's happening. There's nothing like, we just look at each other and we're like, we love our life. Like we love it. I mean, obviously we love the good stuff, but it's like, I love the stuff that's not so good too. Like this is such a better spot to be in emotionally and spiritually than we were when we made all the choices, when we chose our direction, when we like tried to force our will onto what we thought was the right decision, opposed to leaning into the possibilities.
Yeah. And you can tell. And we'd always found out when like we would go visit her parents or my parents, we'd go home for a weekend or something like that. And going to whether it was Kalamazoo or Minocqua, I'd be like, oh, this is really nice. Like, it's kind of nice to be here, to like the area. And then whenever you would drive back, be like, all right, we're back home. Not once have I ever had that in, the 4 years that I've been up here. It's like, we're home. Like, it's a good thing. Like, I can't wait to get back up here. So that for me, because that's not just something that you feel that. It's not something you're deciding. So yeah, that's when it's right. When you're just looking around like, we're happy. We're happy.
That's a good indication that there's something wrong. Like if you go on vacation, that's what I tell people, if you go on vacation and there's some animosity to you going back home, back to your job, back to your life, then there's a misalignment between your spirit and what you're doing. And now that we do live here, and this is our, our life, when we go on to other vacations, I'm happy to come home. Like, when we visited Jason in Colorado last year, it was super fun, super beautiful, but I did not have that same feeling that you had described when we used to come and visit down here, because my sister moved down first. So when we would come and visit, it was weird, but it was like you would feel home. Like I would feel like I'm at home, even though I don't live down here. And now, and some people are like, oh, that's just, you're just on vacation. It's a vacation feeling. Well, I didn't feel that feeling when I went out to Denver and I went out to Boulder. Like I didn't feel like this like spiritual at home, like, oh, this is fun. This is vacation, but it was just fun. And then when I came back home, I'm like, oh man, this is home. And there's such a distinction there. And I encourage anybody that if you experience that visiting somewhere, like listen to that, because there's something to be found there.
Well, and in line with all of your Star Wars stuff in the back, this is gonna sound super nerdy, but that's your kyber crystal calling to you.
I mean, I love it.
Just finished it.
I have that one. I haven't read it yet.
It's good.
Yeah, that's really great. It's calling to you. That's super good. That's amazing. So we're getting a little close to the end. So tell me then a little bit more about Hakkapeliitta. So you emailed them, they emailed back. You guys moved out. You started working there.
Yeah. So the owners bought the place in September. I started working for them in May. So they had like maybe 6 months of running the place. One of the members bought the gym. So one of the members got one of his college buddies. We all went to college together, which is kind of weird. They were a couple of years ahead of me. But they purchased the gym. And I came in as their coach. I was a level 2 at the time. Started coaching, I would say the majority of the classes, but just barely so. There were 3 other coaches at the time. One of them had to leave just for like family purposes and stuff. So I picked up his classes, and then they didn't want to coach on the weekends anymore. So I picked up those classes, and I just kind of kept on getting more and more and more. The gym, we're doing all right. You know how it is, like, the whole saying, you should be embarrassed of the coach you were back then. And I am, because yeah, I was okay, but it wasn't necessarily a good coach. But things were looking up, and we were in this tiny little strip mall place. The owners were they're looking into buying their own building, and they found a place, and we actually purchased the gym that we are now currently in, and they started making renovations, and then COVID hit. So then we were out of the gym for 3 months. We got back in June. I think we started June 1st. We switched a bunch of stuff up. We started doing a hand plan, and things were looking good. And then, people are still having a hard time coming back. And we hit our low point at about December. And so we kept everything. We kept the full schedule. And I got a call from the owner, and he was saying, hey, if we keep this up, we have 3 months left. And so I was like, oh, okay, so we need to make some changes. And so we decided, the two owners and myself, because I was the main coach at that time, all right, we're cutting hours. We're only going to, I think we did 3 classes a day. We had a 5:30, an 8:30, and a 5:30 p.m. Got rid of all the Olympic weightlifting, got rid of all the open gym hours and all that kind of stuff. And like, we had to be really upfront with the members, like, hey, if we don't do this, like, the gym will go away. And this gym has been in the area since like 2011. So it's been here for a while. Fast forward to now, joined the coaching development group shortly after that. I think it was like that October. And it has just gone uphill from there. So got my level 3 2 years ago now and some change shortly after you got yours. Coaching has improved. We've hired on a couple new coaches, and our membership is close to 100 now. It's the highest that it's ever been since ever, I think, definitely since the new owners have had this building, or since the gym. And we've had members quit and then come back. And the common saying is, this gym is so much better than it was back in the day. Like, I can't believe how much better it is. And so that has been a really good thing to hear, because the people who are coming back are enjoying it more. And then the people who are joining the gym now don't know how bad it was back in the day.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, it's been good. It's been a good it's been an uphill battle, but it's been good.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I get that too, because there's been multiple gyms in the space where I'm at. And so people come in, they're like, hey, I was here when it was called XYZ. And they're like, but it's totally different. Like, they're like, they can, going back to the feel, they said that can feel different. Like, and somebody had told me, they articulated it. It was really cool the way they described it. They said each gym has a spirit, and they're like, when you walk into your gym, we can feel the spirit. Like, wow, that's cool. Thank you. Like, that's a huge compliment. Opposed to people coming in and saying they like that I have 2 ski ergs or whatever. Like, thanks for that. But to say that it feels better is huge.
Yeah. And I don't know how many of your members drop in other places, but I tell people, go see what's out there. And I guarantee that you're going to have a new respect for what we do here. And we're in the middle of a bingo month right now. And one of the squares is drop into another gym. And one of our members was apprehensive. She's like, I can go, but I had a bad experience at this one gym. And I was like, you talk to her, like, this other girl here. She's like, she's been to other gyms. And she's like, yeah, if I can do it, you can do it. You're not going to want to leave this gym ever again, but you can do it. Right. So having that feedback from the members that they really enjoy what we do, and that they find it more valuable than what other gyms do, is just all the icing on the cake too. That's
cool. That is really cool. To be able to turn that all around and have all of that like experience that you had lead up to that, to be able to like transform that gym. Go ahead.
I was going to say too, and it's, how do you do that is you have to have all those experiences. You have to have all the trials, the tribulations. You have to be a horrible coach, and then you have to learn and grow and get better with experience. And it doesn't happen overnight. And again, we talked earlier in the beginning part about all those people who just pick everything up and they're great. I think coaching might be the one thing where you can't do that. You have to have,
and I think there is a level. I agree. And even with that though, I do think there's a level of like, you got something, like when even though you're a garbage coach, like, having seen many people coach, even the ones who are like bad, quote unquote, like you can tell the ones that got something, and it's like, there's something you got that like we could forge into something amazing. And then there's other people who are like, you just don't got it. Like this isn't for you, no harm, no foul. This ain't your thing. Let's go do something else.
Yeah. I mean, there's people who aren't meant to be engineers. There's people who aren't meant to be teachers. There's gotta be people who aren't meant to be coaches.
Yeah. And if you want to be an expert at anything, it's going to take time, and you don't become an expert by getting a degree or a certification or a credential or whatever. Like, no letter or letters after your name, no titles are going to make you an expert. The only thing that's going to make you an expert is that experience and the results.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like we say with the level 3, it's not the piece of paper that makes you a good coach. It's the preparation. It's the time under tension. It's the experience that makes you a better coach. That's what's valuable, not the letters.
When the thing that really like hit home for me was when Jay said one call that when you walk in to take your level 3, before you pass, you're already a level 3 because of the amount of work that you put in. Like, oh, like it's never like the credential is simply a confirmation that like you did this thing. But it's not about that. It was never about like being able to tell people I'm a level 3, but it's like, what happened in pursuit of that?
Yeah. Why do you want the level 3? Is it just for those, the L and the 3, or is it because you want to better help people? And like, again, just like there's horrible doctors, there's going to be horrible L3s out there as well. Like, but it's, you can tell, like you said, you can tell that somebody's got something there, and that's what you want to look for. And with the level 3,
there's like the barrier to entry is high enough that there's way less.
True.
So with that, what are you looking forward to? What are you hoping to do next now that you're level 3, you're manager of the gym? What are Tony's goals?
That's a really good question. Still develop the staff. So I have 3 coaches under me that are that we're working with. 2 of them just got their level 2s like a month ago. The 3rd one is going in like another month. We're bringing on an intern right now, so bringing her up to speed is going to be the next goal. So continuing my own development. I know you're in the same boat as this, but probably L4 maybe next year. We'll see how things go. If there's any openings for that matter. They seem to be selling out
quick this year.
Yeah. So that's definitely on the horizon. I had told myself I didn't want to do it, and it's like, that's a lie. I'm going to do it at some point. Just make sure that the cards align. I want to get the gym over 100 members. 100 paying members. Let me be precise here. Because that is like that's a milestone, I think. And I think if we can do that, that brings a whole new set of challenges and opportunities for the gym with regards to scheduling and programming and stuff like that, which gives us opportunities to make the gym better. Fun stuff for me. I want to do a diesel day.
Yeah.
I want to do a diesel day. So I'm going to make that happen either this year or next year. And that's going to be cool. And yeah, I got some races and stuff coming up personally. So like some personal fitness stuff, and the open, of course, is coming up. Got to beat Jersey Tony again. no ego weeks there, right?
Just a couple. Are you guys? How old are you?
I am 35. I'll be 36 when the next games comes around.
So this is your first year Masters then?
Second year Masters.
Oh, you got a last year? Well, because the birthday cutoff.
The birthday cutoff, yeah.
Gotcha. Very cool. Well, awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Anything else that you wanted to share or talk about before we wrap this up?
Not really. It's just to kind of summarize, like, you just go for it, right? Do whatever makes you happy, because whatever you believe happens at the end of this life, whether you get reincarnated or if it's nothing, whatever, like, you're probably not going to remember or care. Like, enjoy this one. So take care of yourself. And that means not only physically, but also like mentally. And if you hate what you're doing, that's not taking care of yourself mentally. And you're going to be much happier. And I understand that not everyone can do this, but as much as possible, try to be happy in your life because it makes everything else so much easier.
I love it.
Much easier.
I love it. Yeah. Thanks, dude. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Thanks for doing what you do. Thanks for always being down to collaborate with me. And I love that we get to work with each other and help coaches do, with the group, help coaches do the thing that we're doing. And that's ultimately what I hope to do with this podcast, is not just coaching specifically, but in general, let other people know that like the happiness and fulfillment are real and possible for you. You just have to figure out, what it is that you like, and then, or love, not just love that fills up your energy cup, and lean into that and allow the possibilities to unfold and take some gambles to make that happen.
Yep. 100%. Love it.
Awesome. Thanks, dude.
Of course.
Thank you so much for checking out this episode. If you liked it, please like it. If you checked it out on YouTube, if you're on Spotify, leave me a review. That'll be super helpful. And then if you dug this episode, connect with me on Instagram. If we aren't already, send me a DM. Let me know what you liked about the episode. Let me know what you would have liked to see that you didn't see. I'm going to keep interviewing people that are pursuing their passion to inspire you to pursue yours. And if you're somebody that is feeling stuck and you are making decisions that are not in line with where you want to go in life, and you want to turn your life around and pursue your passion and pave your own path, then ask me about my mindset coaching. I'm doing one-on-one coaching, specifically geared towards men that want to live happier, more fulfilled lives, that we can lead families and be the example that you can carve your own journey. So if that sounds like you, connect with me either on Instagram, or you can click the link that I'll have in the show notes to book a discovery call. And I will see you next time.